campaign conspired with the Turkey government, another on top City Hall officials, and the third includes Kaban.
In other New York corrupt politicians news,
the subway system, right? He was like, we're going to get rid of all of the crime in the subway system. We're going to put a bunch of police down there, and that's going to fix our problem. So how could that possibly go wrong? You know, let's look at this story here. I don't know if you guys heard about it. So it's like, apparently someone was trying to jump the turnstile and they ended up getting shot. I think they got shot, and some innocent bystanders got shot. It's like $3 to get on the train, and that's enough reason to bust some caps on somebody. I don't know. It says, this is what happens when we flood the subway system with police. A police shooting that injured 3 people and 1 officer is the result of New York Mayor Eric Adams' enforcement first mentality. So The Intercept. It says, in a Brooklyn subway station on Sunday afternoon, police shot and injured 3 people and a fellow New York Police Department officer over a $2.90 fare. This is what safety and security looks like in Mayor Eric Adams' New York, where problems of poverty and hardship are met with policing and state-sanctioned violence, writes Tasha Leonard. At around 3 p.m. Sunday, at the Sutter Avenue stop in Brownsville, Brooklyn, a 37-year-old man allegedly evaded paying the subway fare. According to reports, 2 police officers pursued this man up 3 flights of stairs and confronted him on the station's platform. Police say the man pulled out a knife. Both officers opened fire on the man, piercing him with several bullets, while also striking 2 bystanders. One of the officers was hit with friendly fire. One of the bystanders, a 49-year-old man, is in critical condition in the hospital from a bullet wound to the head. It says, this is what happens when you flood a major transit system with a government-sanctioned, taxpayer-funded armed gang coated with official impunity and prone to violent escalation. So, yeah, and I was seeing about this story earlier, and it was like, so apparently they can't find the alleged knife that the guy had. It is missing. They can't produce it. It's gone. So I don't know, maybe he had a knife, maybe he didn't. Maybe he dropped it and somebody came by and picked it up. What do we know, right? But how many times does this happen when the police shoot somebody and they say they had a weapon and they don't? And what happens when you have bored, these police officers with nothing to do looking for some crime when there isn't any? What do you think is going to happen? I don't know. This just kind of connects to the Mayor Eric Adams story. The whole thing with the sanctuary city thing and him crying about that. And he's like, we're a sanctuary city. We're going to take care of these immigrants, da, 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 da. And then he turns around and he's like, we can't pay for this. This is destroying our city. Like, bro, like, did you not have some kind of like long-term plan for this situation? Like, I don't know. How do we get to this point where we have these people that are in charge who do not, they seem to not be very thoughtful, if you will. They seem to not have much of a plan, if you will. Like they fail. It seems like they're incapable of doing what they're put there to do. Now, I ain't gonna lie, like a city like New York is complicated as hell. Like, as I was reading the story related to the trash bins because he was talking about the rats, and they were like, you need to take care of the rats. It's a real huge problem. Let's fix this. And they started putting the trash bins out there, but then they did like a tax related to paying for it, and obviously the people of New York wasn't happy about that. But it's like, they didn't have trash bins out there. Like, that seems like the simplest thing. I'm not blaming him for this because this is a thing that's been a problem in New York for a long time. But what is your system when you just have like piles of trash on the street? Like, there's no way you're going to be able to take care of the rats if you've got piles of trash on the street. Like, that's simple. And that's one of the things he was saying. We're going to clean up the streets. We're going to, fine people if they leaving trash out there. They put it out there too early. Like, they have specific times where they're going to go pick up the trash or whatever. But even with that, the little margin of error where the time is the trash is sitting out there on the street is going to give the rats plenty of time to gobble up and then go chill until the next cycle comes back around. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. Like, and I know it's a lot of trash and it's a lot of people. So maybe that's the what gets in the way of having the trash bins out there, and then it'll be an eyesore too. But you got to find some kind of way around it. You can make it pretty. Here in Houston, they have those electric. I don't know what the hell you call them. I ain't gonna even lie. I do not know what the hell you call them. But they're these little. They're usually green in color traditionally, and they're on the side of the road, and they're just like the metal container, and they serve a purpose. I can't remember right now what it is. I want to say it's an electrical purpose, and they're just kind of all over the city or whatever. So, but they started this project because I used to work at Home Depot, and I was talking to this guy who was coming in here buying paint. I worked in the paint department, and I was chopping it up with the guy, and he was telling me what he did, and he was like, "Yeah, those boxes, those green boxes." He says, "I paint those, and they pay me to do this, and I get to be creative, and I could put whatever I want to on them." So if you're in Houston, drive around, you'll see them. You'll know what I'm talking about because now almost all of them have like a decorative painting over them or whatever, and it's pretty cool. It's like it's art, and it's not graffiti. It's like art, actual like some kind of art on it. And instead of it being like an eyesore, it's like kind of like something to look at. It's really cool. So what I'm saying is those trash, you could do something similar to that with the trash bins. Like, here I am from the outside looking in, thinking I could solve New York's rat problem that's been a problem for decades that they seem to haven't been able to fix. But hey, I'm just a guy. Put the bins out there and paint them, make them pretty, make them big enough to be able to hold enough trash, and also make them compatible to the trucks that can come by and pick them up, without the trashman having to get out of the truck, and make them pretty, and I don't know. I guess they'll take up too much space on the street, so maybe that won't work. But whatever, man. The point is Eric Adams sucks. That's the point. Let's read some comments. It says, we need free public transportation, no more militarized police in the subways. These capitalist elites would rather criminalize poverty than provide social services. I agree with that argument, but maybe there should be, it should be fee. I don't think there should be a fee, but you need to have some kind of system because if the homeless people will just ride the trains back and forth, and then you'll just have only homeless people on the trains because, the other people probably won't really want to ride the trains if it's full of homeless people. Like, we won't have no space for the people who need to get ready to go. So there needs to be some kind of balance with that, but yeah, I agree with the free public transit though. Another comment says, no, this is what happens when we don't properly educate and train law enforcement. There are plenty of police in subways all over the world who don't shoot citizens. This is true and not true because they always say this. Whenever something happens, they're like, oh, we need to focus on training. So, but what if it's not training? What if it's a culture issue? Something that's intrinsic, it couldn't necessarily be through the cops throughout the nation, but through specific police departments. They have a specific culture that involves like, being really brass and hard and gangster, if you will. and not caring about civilians, not caring about hurting people, and then being, you know, not subject to any kind of accountability. It says the fare should be replaced with a tax to make the system free. Another one. And who pulls out a gun to combat a knife, especially when you're an officer who has a backup and the person with the knife isn't like, I'm just confused on what happens when these people go through training. I mean, sometimes that's a easy argument, but you don't know. Nobody wants to get stabbed. We'd have to see how far away the person was from the, from the police officer. And like I say, they couldn't find the knife anyway. The guy maybe never had a knife. They needed something to justify the shooting, especially since they freaking innocent people got shot. One of their own people got shot. If that didn't happen, they wouldn't even have to do much of a report, probably. Another comment says, if you want to see what's wrong with our transit policy, simply look at countries that have mastered it. Many European and Asian countries are surpassing us by leaps and bounds. That part is 100% true. We just can't seem to get that. Those same countries got healthcare figured out, and those countries have transit figured out. We just can't seem to get that done over here. Hold on, it was something I was thinking. Eric Adams related. What was it? The comments before this one made me think about it. Hold on. I lost it. It's gonna come back to me because he did something else. What was it? It's gonna come back to me, y'all. I'm sorry, I don't have no notes. No notes today. It says the only police bad areas in Astoria, Queens, there are 0 cops, and all people hop the turnstile. I saw a white dude in a suit do it last week. Another comment, we need peace officers. It's just that I believe many of them need an attitude adjustment. First step will be dropping the police on patrol cars and anywhere else and replacing it with peace officer. Maybe if they see themselves as peace officers, as in keeping the peace, they may have an attitude adjustment in a positive direction. Yeah, keep dreaming. Oh yeah, that's what it was. They were trying to, make it so words the police in New York would have to document every time they like pull somebody over or whatever. And Eric Adams was like, "Nah, we're not doing that," And I mean, I know him having a history of being a police officer. He's going to look out for the police officers, but at the same time, you would think that you would want systems in place to protect your police officers also, because if they're saying that your police officers are racial profiling or being brutality, excessive force or whatever, wouldn't you want something in place to show that that's not true? And if you had records to prove it, and then people are like, oh, your cops are racially profiling, and you could just pull out the data and be like, look at this data right here, it doesn't show that. So what y'all saying is not true. They're like, your cops are being brutal and brutalizing its people, da 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 da. And they could be like, hey, I got data right here that shows us that that's not true. But this guy, he wasn't interested in that. You got to wonder, why is that the case? He fought tooth and nail to keep from that happening. It didn't happen. That seemed like a common sense measure. And another comment up there said that they police the bad areas, and it's like, we know this is true. It happens in this city that I live in, and it's not that there's more crime happening in those areas either. You know what I mean? As opposed to other areas that aren't being policed, I mean, and if you're a smart criminal, then you're going to go to the areas where there's less police to do your dirt. You know what I mean? Like, it has to do with people that don't have money and, immigrants, people of color. The system, it feeds off of them. They don't have the money to fight the cases. They don't have money to pay bail. They don't have money to get lawyers. They take plea deals. We have all of these private prisons, and they need spots. They need people in there, whether those people were guilty or not, or if it was nonviolent crimes, or if it was something having to do with chemical dependencies or loitering, little crimes, and you railroad them into the system, like they had the 3-strike rule that they had. I don't think that's in anymore, but it's like, you catch a case, and then, they something that they just railroaded you in, you get railroaded again. Maybe you actually do something the third time, and then boom, you're gone, and the system is just making money. It's an industry, and it's like, spend money on education or build new prisons. It's like, hey, a prison is way more profitable than a school, at least in the short term. And if you think in monetary ways, because I really don't think that that's true at all, even monetarily long terms. But that's the way they look at it. So if you have a profit over people, if you have a profit over people model, then you're gonna end up with these same results every time. What do y'all think? Another guy I really don't like, and that guy is Ken Paxton.